Hello, I'm Dr. Baxter Bell for Chipper. In this segment, I'm going to start you on your path to healing your low back pain. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about low back pain, but the statistics on how many people suffer from it each year are pretty astounding. In the United States alone, it's estimated that 8 out of 10 people in the United States this year will have at least a short episode of low back pain. So it's going to affect a lot of people, and when you extrapolate that out to a worldwide audience, you can imagine that around the globe, that this is millions and millions of people each year suffering from low back pain. One of the most basic things that I see with the students that I work with and the patients that I see is that the first thing we have to address when working with low back pain is your basic standing posture. So I'm going to have you do 2 things today as an entryway into healing your low back pain. All you'll need for this little sequence we're going to do is 1 block. And you can take a big thick book that you have in your library that you haven't read in years, and you can wrap it with duct tape, and you can make yourself a yoga block. So you don't have to go out and buy a yoga prop necessarily. So the reason I like the yoga block is it gives me a way of energizing my legs. And what I mean by that is strengthening the muscles in the legs in such a way that my legs are strong and supportive of the rest of my spine. So how I like to do that is I like to place the block in between the thighs. And I'll show you this from both the front and from the side so you can see how this looks. And then I squeeze the block firmly. And then not only do I like to squeeze it, but I also like to roll the thighs in slightly. As I roll the thighs inward toward the block, as if I was going to try and push the block back behind me, I'm going to also allow my pelvis to tip a little forward, and it's going to feel like my tailbone is trying to lift up and back a little bit. So as I squeeze and roll in, and my pelvis tips a little bit, I'll actually feel a little bit of the natural curve in my lower back suddenly arise. Let me show that to you from the side. So I'm going to turn sideways. Again, I'll take the block out. I put the block in this way. There are other ways you could do that, but I find this the most effective. And then I'm going to squeeze in with my legs, and as I roll my thighs back, you may be able to see that, as I roll my thighs back a little bit, my lower back comes into a slightly more pronounced arch. Not dramatic, but enough that I can actually feel that. And then from here, as I create that nice squeeze in the block, I want to think about sending the energy of that work in my legs all the way up to the crown of my head. Some of my teachers have said in the past to imagine a string extending up from the crown of the head like a puppet string or a marionette string. And sometimes that image is very helpful in creating that upward lift of the head. It's not this, however. A lot of times I see my students when I say lengthen up through the spine, and they throw their chin up and back with the illusion that they're getting taller, but indeed they're just going into more of a back bend in the neck. So the neck stays neutral, the legs are active and they roll in slightly, and then you lengthen up. And sometimes just that action of working with the block in what's called mountain pose in yoga, which is often said to be the starting posture for all of the other standing poses in yoga, can very nicely begin to bring a nice feeling of both support and openness in the lower back. And if you notice that just standing that way alone starts to diminish your pain, you're definitely heading in the right direction. So the second thing that's very helpful is to bring a little mobility into the bones of the lower back. This next set of moves that I'm going to show you can be done standing, as I'm going to demonstrate today, but you can also do it sitting on a chair. You can also do it, there's a variation lying on your back. So today we're going to do the standing version, but know that you can interpret that and take it down into sitting and reclining also. So this is called standing cat-cow, and I think it's easier to see this from the side, so I'm going to turn back to the side so you can take a look at this. Now, you could have your block in position, or you could remove the block as you find necessary. I also find that bending my knees a little bit is helpful because that releases the tension in my hips and allows me to do this action a little more easily. So I find that the first action I'm going to show you is the easier for one to access, and the second one is the more challenging one. So the first thing I'm going to do is, as I take a breath out, I'm going to draw my belly in towards my spine, I'm going to round my back a little bit, and I'm going to drop my chin towards my chest. And then as I inhale, I'm going to roll my hips forward, I'm going to arch my back a little more noticeably, I'm going to let my chin lift just slightly up. So I come into a little standing back bend shape. As I exhale, I'm going to round the back, draw the belly in, bring the chin down to the chest. As I inhale, I'm going to gently arch the spine and maybe even broaden the front chest and arms. Exhaling, I'm going to round the back, drop the head, let the shoulders come forward. As I inhale, I'm going to gently arch, let the chin lift up a little bit. And I might do that 6 times as a good number. So we've done about 3. I'm heading into my 4th round now. The last 2 I'm going to do with my breath. So you're just going to hear me breathing and see me moving. And then come back up. Stand in that active way I've shown you, squeezing the block, rolling the thighs in, allowing the pelvis to tilt a little bit, and then sending the energy up to the crown of the head. So standing cat-cow, standing mountain pose with the block between the thighs, two very simple and yet powerful poses that can take you on your way to healing lower back pain. You might want to finish your practice by listening to the Relaxing Breath tab on your app. Thank you.